people see this opportunity or see this thing that is Datamango, and the way that we hire is very abnormal, and they say, I don't feel deserving, or I don't feel this is right, or I feel like an imposter. What tends to happen is you see people, and you see people that are struggling, or you see people that are out of place, or that aren't being recognized, which is where a lot of the people that we work with come from. They've been plodding along, they've been doing their jobs, but what I tend to see in people is a spark, a conversation that you have with somebody, and you realize that they've actually got a deep passion or a deep eagerness to learn, and it's not being facilitated where they're working. And that's what I tend to look for. Like, so if I can find that in people, and then observe them and say, like, I see you, right? I see you, and I respect you, and I would love to work with you. Then I think it gets people both really excited, and it gets people really nervous, because they're like, this doesn't happen. Like, why? Like, they're like looking around them, like, what's going on? Like, who is this a setup? Is like Noel Edmonds going to pop out of the floor or something? Like, have I been got? What we're really successful at is the people that we've got in the business, and retaining talent that we've got and nurturing it and growing it. And I think the beauty of that is really that you build a team that keeps the values intact as you grow. I don't know what point it will bust. It will bust at some point. Like, it's just natural. That's just how life goes. But it just gives me so much drive and determination to keep that alive. That's really what I get up for in the morning. It's not, what the stuff that I do day to day is less important to me, and the achievements that I personally make, I feel, are sometimes at the expense of someone else having done them. So I'd rather get them on board, if you know what I mean, teach them.
And building a company with being people focused is such a, I'd say, uncharted territory a lot in this day and age, when we think about a typical business, or perhaps from our personal experiences, and not having experiences of working in a business like this. But I think what's really cool about it is, by doing it, you can demonstrate that work and companies and businesses can be more than just work and a job and somewhere to go to get that. It can mean more than that.
I definitely don't want to build a company that doesn't put people first. Is it a case that in order to build a company like that, you need to give up on the sense of capitalism, and actually you need to focus on people, which means that you don't make money, which means that you can't build the business, which means that the business fails. And the surprising thing, I mean, touch wood, so far, that I found is that if you do focus on people, empowering them, allowing them room to grow, not being a boss, but being a leader and leading from the front and showing people how it's done, and then allow them to do it themselves, what happens is that you make money as a proxy of that effect, kind of as a knock-on effect. You make money. You don't need to worry too much. I mean, and I say that with a massive caveat, because in the early days we certainly did. But as a business that hasn't had any investment, it hasn't had any funding, we haven't had any loans from any banks. It's just been bootstrapped by me from the start. 1 employee to 2 employees to now there's 11 of us, and then we've got the branch off business of Arco. Personally reflecting back on the last 5 years from when we started, within year 1 or 2, I lost my dad, and then we went for a global pandemic, and then after the global pandemic had finished, I got diagnosed with cancer, and then I beat cancer, and then all within that 5-year period, all whilst trying to build a company from the start. And I look back at it, and it's only really now that I can really reflect on it and go, Jesus Christ, that was a lot of shit to go through, trying to do the right thing whilst also being grieving, or also worrying about people on furlough and the pandemic and getting work, and then after that, going through this thought process of like, well, what happens if I die? It's the strange thing with all those different events that happened is they all taught me a massive lesson, which is that losing my dad was really tough, but what it taught me is that once my dad had gone, I kind of, I didn't have anyone left to need to make to feel proud, because he was always the one that I would try and make proud in life. And so I had to find my own sense of pride. In a sense, it felt like becoming a man, taking on the responsibility of my own life without knowing that I'm going to get any assurance for that. And that for me was a hard thing to come to grips with. But what it did is it kind of pushed me forward as much as it grieved me. I had a point in my life where I was like, I need to chase happiness, and I thought that's where I need to. That's the goal. Everyone tells me that's the goal. Need to be happy. But actually, like, I think, as weird as it is to say, there's so much beauty in misery, but not in a self-pity sense, but the beauty that you see in the world when you've seen the depths of it, and even the small things that people take for granted, you can appreciate. I think it gives you a new perspective on life and what's important. And actually, one of the things that I realized is that happiness isn't that important to me. Other people's happiness is really important to me. What I can impact on other people is really important to me. But from my own perspective, like, I'm content, and I think I can live a life that serves others. And I think when you do serve others, you actually end up serving yourself by proxy. But when you employ empathy, and when you try, and when you give people the benefit of the doubt, some people think that you're being naive, but it doesn't matter, because ultimately you're walking into every interaction with the best intentions and giving people the ability to be the best version of themselves. And I think that's a beautiful thing.